Alright guys, I'm working on a 2020 Chevy Equinox with a 1.5 liter engine, turbocharged. We have a code P0033 turbocharger bypass solenoid valve control circuit. Little backstory on this Equinox. The customer brought it in and they've replaced the ECM, the engine control module. These circuits are controlled by the ECM to regulate how the bypass solenoid valve control circuit works and the oxygen sensor works. There's the bypass solenoid for the turbo. The green line, or the green wire, goes back to the ECM, is grounded by the ECM to activate that solenoid. The violet blue wire is power fed through a fuse. Alright, so here's a picture of our turbo bypass solenoid. And if you take a look down in here, there's some crimp connectors all in the wiring that goes into the bypass solenoid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probe one side of the connector and we should read 12 volts, and then 12 volts on the other side, so long as the ECM is not grounding the circuit. So we should have 12 volts on both sides. We'll see power going in and power going out. That does not mean the solenoid is actuated, but we can actuate it ourselves to see that the solenoid is working. Okay, I'm pinned in on the control side of the circuit of the solenoid valve. So my black pin right there is on the green wire, and that green wire goes back to the ECM, and the ECM grounds it to activate the solenoid here. So I'm going to turn it on. Okay, the solenoid is on. Our voltage drops from 12 to 0 volts. It's working as it should. Turn it back off. We're reading 12 volts again. So, what's going on here? Well, you can see all the crimps on the wire there. Our power feed and control side. Watch what happens when I wiggle it. Dropping down to 6 volts. There's an issue right there. And look at the scan tool. Malfunction, not run. Open test status, malfunction. Yeah, that's definitely an open or a high resistance right there. So I think we need to either do a wiring repair or get a whole new pigtail for this solenoid valve, or bypass solenoid. But, you know, if you're wanting to test the integrity of the solenoid as well, I mean, we kind of did that with the scan tool, but you can also do it with the multimeter. So I've set my multimeter to amps and DC. I disconnected my lead here, but you can actuate the solenoid and hear it click by grounding the solenoid yourself, and you're not going to hurt the ECM. So long as the ECM is grounding the solenoid as well, it's not going to hurt anything, because there's no difference in potential at that point. You're not sending voltage through to the ECM, so we're going to hear it click. That's me touching it on and off. And you can see how many amps it pulls too. About 900 milliamps. Alright, so update on the Equinox. Not only was the crimp connections a problem, I didn't like crimp connections, so I soldered it in. You can see this is the wiring harness. I soldered that right here and down there. But what I missed is terminal tension, pin contact in the connector. So the Equinox is long gone. I already put a new connector on it, but look, I was able to actuate the solenoid with my scan tool, but when you wiggled the connector itself while it was plugged up, it would actuate on and off, even though my scan tool was commanding it on the whole time. So it was losing connection in the connector. The terminals are spread. I don't know if you can see that very well. Let me get a better shot. They're just spread apart in there. And not only that, but the connector housing is broke. So that thing can wiggle around. You're driving down the road, you go into limp mode because the turbo bypass solenoid is shutting on and off when it's not supposed to. I missed that while I was diagnosing it, and the reason why I misdiagnosed that part was because I was back probing the connector, and then that can make it have good terminal contact in the connector. So just something to watch out for. I should have went the extra step and checked that connector, this connector. You know, I did all the wiring, got it in there, this one in there, and come to find out it needs a connector. Keep your eyes out.